Good morning, everybody. Good morning, Carrie. How are you?
Good morning, Patrick. How fantastic to talk with you again. Hello from the UK.
Hello from the USA, everybody. I'm so excited to chat with you, Carrie. If you haven't met her before, Carrie's the co-founder of Fashion Revolution, super fantastic champion of sustainable fashion. Carrie, welcome. Thank you for taking some time with us. And I love your earrings.
Are they great? They're from
Tell us.
Mercedes Salazar, who's a Colombian designer, and it was part of an online auction to raise money for producer groups in Peru who were particularly affected by COVID. So really good cause.
Oh my gosh. Well, you are a champion for wearing them. I'm going to be seeing if I can get a pair for me too. So not just to wear, but also to help the wonderful people of Peru and all over Latin America. We're praying for them. I'd love to talk to you a little bit more about Black Friday and how that translates all over the world because it's coming up. It's the day after Thanksgiving here in America. But can you contextualize that a little bit and let us know, what does it look like for you guys in the UK? How does Black Friday get picked up with you there, and what's happening with it?
Yeah, I think it's interesting here. I mean, traditionally, Black Friday was the day when brands and retailers went into the black for the
Mm.
first time. It was the day when they started to make a profit. I mean, goodness knows when that is. You know, probably no time this year with the impact of COVID on a lot of businesses. And I reckon Black Friday has probably been around in the UK. Yeah, it's been prevalent for probably around about a decade.
Mm.
And we are seeing it spreading around the world. And that's not surprising, really, because Black Friday just represents a sore spot in an industry that runs on overproduction.
Right.
And when we start to buy into these seemingly good deals, then we're sending a message to the brands that it's actually okay for them to thoughtlessly produce more and more clothing, because we'll help them to get rid of these stockpiles as long as they're steeply discounted.
Yeah, and so that liquidation and that kind of sense of urgency to buy now. I
Mm.
mean, I know here in America, where I'm from, they have it's become a phenomenon, and now Black Friday goes all the way into Cyber Mondays, and so the whole marketing spin of Black Friday has taken over an entire weekend, and people have gone crazy. Is it the same way for you in the UK? Do people go crazy for Black Friday there?
Not in the same ways, or not that I've seen. I mean, we're always shocked at seeing some of those videos from the States. And of course, this year the shops are closed. We're in lockdown,
Yep.
so nothing other than the essential shops are open, which is, it's incredibly hard for those small retailers. I mean, talking as my husband now runs Patricuti, the
Yeah.
fair trade sustainable Panama hat brand that I set up. And I know from talking to him just how tough that is, because yes, there's some online sales, but with a product like Panama hats, people aren't traveling as much, so there's less demand for them. So I think it is, it's really difficult throughout the industry. And some of those bigger retailers have been able to stay open because sometimes they're selling food and other items alongside, or they've got really good websites. So I think it's been a lot tougher on those smaller sustainable brands who really need our support.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, I think this year is it's a very interesting year, as you said, because we have COVID and lockdown and the whole kind of cycle and system, which has been turned upside down. So how do we, maybe we can just talk a little bit about how this Black Friday fits into a COVID crisis now. And it's a really interesting question where retailers, brands, little, small designers, and large ones are really needing that income in order to survive. So is Black Friday an essential, or how do you think we should be looking at this?
Yeah, I think it's really interesting, because I think people often look at Black Friday as an environmental problem.
Mhm.
We look at the huge amount of overproduction and the waste,
Mhm.
but I think we really need to look at the interconnectedness of the social and the environmental. I mean, this is something we're going to be doing a lot more over the coming year at Fashion Revolution. It's something I guess I've been looking at a lot this year as a result of my incredible research voyage when I sailed 2,000 miles this year to look at microplastic and microfiber production, waste in the oceans, because I was also looking at chemicals, and these chemicals affect the environment, but they also impact on our health and our fertility as
Mhm.
well. And I think this is very much the same, because on the one hand we know that the garment workers, they depend on these jobs, they're really valuable for them, they depend on this money to survive, and garment work can be a really valuable source out of poverty, and it gives women independence, if those are decent jobs with decent wages. But on the other hand, that we know that the low prices lead to low wages, the high volumes of clothing are putting undue pressure,
Mhm.
excess overtime on the workers, and we know that hardly anybody in fashion supply chains receives a living wage, and that's why those unpaid wages from earlier in the year are really enough to tip some families into very precarious circumstances.
Yeah, I mean, your earrings that you're wearing are a perfect example of that. Like you said that you had purchased them as a way to help support a cause for people that are in desperate need in Peru, which is
Mhm.
huge. And so, it's interesting because the conversation, you're right, is about. I always think about Black Friday, and there's definitely a huge negative overtone to it, but it's in what I think. I'm an optimist like you, and I always think about, like, well, let's look at some of the positives of Black Friday. Positives, I feel like retailers and brands and designers are investing a lot of time and energy and money into that one day and that one weekend. So theoretically, then there could be a possibility where if we were going to be just refocusing that energy on how to shop sustainably, how to make a positive impact, how to swap, how to do all those great things. You guys at Fashion Revolution actually have a great campaign around some of these, wonderful things that we can do during Black Friday season. So can you maybe share a little bit about the positive things that have come out of that for you guys?
Yeah, yeah, no, of course I can, and I think
Yeah.
it's really important to acknowledge that for some people the Black Friday sales are, they need to have that discount, but they can be a really good opportunity to buy a good quality item of clothing or accessory which you can't afford otherwise. So it's not always about sort of cheap clothing. Sometimes it's about the only time when you can buy
Mhm.
that handbag that you've saved up for years and years and years, which will last, for your generation and the generations to come. I mean, yesterday I was darning my Brunello Cucinelli cashmere socks for like the third time, and yes, I bought them at about 90% off. I wouldn't have bought those otherwise. But it doesn't mean I love them any less. I think you can fall in love with a bargain, you can fall in love with a sale object, but you need to take the same care over it, and you need to make it last as
Yeah.
well. So yes, no, I mean, at Fashion Revolution we do have a campaign going, and we certainly won't be shaming anybody if they are shopping on Black Friday, but we're saying there's plenty of other ways to engage. And in past years we actually partnered with Greenpeace, and we called it Make Something Week, and we encourage people to get out and to do something, to repair, to swap, to mend an item of clothing they already had, or to create something new. So I think one of the things people can do instead of participating in Black Friday is to use the time to be an activist. I think a lot more people this year are learning what it means to be an activist, and learning that we can't just do nothing. We actually have to use our voices, and that those voices can bring about change.
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
if you look at the Black Friday link when you go to Fashion Revolution's homepage, then you can follow that through, and there's an option which says stand up to brands, and we've got a template where you can just put in the brand's name and say, this Black Friday I want to know that you're taking responsibility for the waste in your operations, and I want to know that you're ensuring the well-being of everybody who makes our clothes, and that you're tackling overproduction. And you can just put the brand's name in and copy and paste that, and put it in the DM to the brand on Instagram, or send a tweet to the brand.
Yes, I'll
And
be doing that. I can't wait. Because I'm a
yeah,
part of the campaign too, so I'm so excited. That's so genius. I love that.
And I think people really underestimate the power that that has. I mean, when we talk to brands, they say, well, actually, we don't pay that much attention to petitions because we don't think typically it's our customers who sign that kind of thing.
Mm.
What they do pay attention to is messages from their customers. So if you love a particular brand, it does make a difference. If you talk to them and say, look, I really want to buy from you, but I want to see you making progress. I want to see you doing better. I heard in the first year of Fashion Revolution that for every one message on social media to a brand, they took that as representing 10,000 people who thought the same way but couldn't be bothered to do anything about it. So just imagine how many people we represent on listening to this interview. Now we could potentially be the equivalent of millions of people if we write to the brands that we buy. So if we all do that, then we can make a difference.
Well, you guys at Fashion Revolution all over the world have done such monumental work on communicating on how to just be fashion champions of sustainability and fashion through the fashion industry, which is so incredible. So I want to, first of all, commend you for that. I love being a part of all of that. And as hopefully all the viewers do as well. I'd like to go back to a quick question though about Black Friday and the kind of negative overtones that it's been having. And what are some of your tips, Carrie, for having a positive Black Friday experience? I know you talked about darning a sock. I'd love to darn a sock with you. But, but what are can you give us some positive, actions? I know we talked about being an activist and going to the Fashion Revolution website. Of course, we'll absolutely all be doing that. But give us some insider tips about what we can be doing to have a more positive Black Friday experience.
Yeah, no, absolutely. I think the one thing I would say first of all is that if you are buying something over the Black Friday weekend, one of the most important things you can do, I mean, we all get so obsessed with returns, yes, returns are
Can I ask about that?
important. We know that a shocking 20% of clothing returns ends up in landfill, but actually about the most important thing you can do, some research has shown, is to not choose the priority shipping option. That is
great.
really significant. So if you are shopping, just remember that if you have like a 3 to 5 day option rather than a 1 to 2 day option, choose that, because it makes a really significant difference, especially in a country like the States where the faster shipping option might involve a flight. But I live in the countryside, and choosing next day delivery means that probably a separate van will have to come all the way out to our village, rather than it tying in with that route, which might be happening later on in the week. So I think that's certainly something that's really important too.
They're very smart to point that out. Interesting to point that out, because I think we're not often conscious, because of course, Black Friday just means emergency. You want this sale now. And of course, when you're buying whatever it is that you're buying, it incites that I want it now type of attitude or type of behavior. But you're right, that actually can be potentially super harmful, because I think I was reading a statistic last year that something like globally 83 to 85,000 extra trucks were put on the road just to handle Black Friday deliveries. So then when you think about 85,000 extra trucks globally in the world that are just doing these kind of deliveries, how much extra CO2 pollution that has. But then also the returns. Let's talk about the returns. How we've been trained to buy 3 sizes, buy 5 colors, choose one, and return the stuff that you don't want. How does that affect everything? What do you think about that?
Yeah, I mean, it has a massive impact. I mean, it's, they say there's around maybe 6% of orders which are bought in physical stores are returned, compared to around 30% of online orders. I suspect that's probably higher these days, because people do buy things in multiple sizes to try at home. I mean, I think it's not straightforward. There's been several different pieces of research about what is more environmentally friendly, whether it's going to shop in a physical store or online, and it really depends on a number of factors. So it depends on how far you drive to start with. If you're a mile away from your nearest town, and I do almost all of my shopping in Leek, which is our nearest town, which is a mile or 2 away, and it has a fantastic array of independent stores. It has an amazing Saturday sort of vintage antiques market as well, and I can get pretty much all of my presents there from the local traders. But if you're driving 50 miles to your nearest mall, then that that has a real difference as well. So it depends on how you're shopping as well. And I guess coming back to your previous point about what can we do, this is where buying local is so important. This is where buying smaller is so important, because the research shows that if you spend £1 in a small or medium-sized business, then it's probably equivalent with a dollar in the US, that actually 63 pence stays in the local economy compared to only about 40% with a large business. And that £1 actually then gets almost accelerated up because and I think it ends up representing about £5, because you're then employing people who are local, and that if they spend their money locally, it really makes a huge difference. If you can do all you can to support local designers, sustainable designers, small designers, and do your research. It's my husband's 50th birthday coming up, and I spent some time this morning, looking for which is the best brand. I wanted to get him a foraging knife for mushrooms with a little brush on the end, and it's like, well, how can I get something which is beautiful and handcrafted and support somebody local and sustainable? And I bought one in a nice little veg-tanned leather pouch.
Oh, I can't wait to
made, rather than buying something that's mass produced and commercial. And the